I can the first line of your copy, whether or not it's going to work, whether or not you have positioning, whether or not that positioning is born from mechanism, even if mechanism isn't a part of that opening line of your ad or your VSL. I can tell if it's going to trigger self-identification, get people to raise their hands, be like, hey, yo, how did you know I was thinking that? Nobody's ever said it out loud before. You know what I mean? So if you're a new copywriter and you're using AI, ChatGPT, I have Gemini open here as well. And those are the two that I'm using. I'm not going to use Claude or Perplexity or, whatever. Those are the two I'm going to be just showing you today, a few examples of why context training versus prompt thinking means everything. Now, the AI chatbots, they all start from scratch, zero memory. They can access the internet, but they are not able to get context on their own. So you have to provide with AI, ChatGPT, Claude, Gemini, all of them, Perplexity, you have to provide the context for a prompt to work, for a prompt to give you the kind of copy that can actually convert in the real world. So check this out. Let me actually start here. This is a ebook I wrote years ago, but it has a lot of the foundational stuff that I use in copywriting. Now, I use the trope copywriting is dead. Well, it's not. That's hyperbolic sales. That's not reality. The reality is we are using AI just as much, or we're using copywriting just as much now with AI, with ChatGPT, as we always have, except now we're able to get exponentially more out of it. So in order to take that blank canvas that is a thread, that is a chatbot, that is an account, you need to give it foundational context. Like, how are we thinking here? What actually converts in real life? And why? What psychology is it based on? So I didn't read copywriting books. That's not my gig. I read different things. I read about happy chemicals, dopamine, oxytocin, serotonin. I wanted to understand how these chemicals work when I write an opening line for a video ad. What is going to get the person to be like, damn boy, how'd you know that's me? Because that's what people are looking for. They're looking for self-identification, to see themselves, to mirror neuron with whatever you're putting out there. And I'm not talking about irreverent commercial TV advertising. I'm talking about here on TikTok or Meta, YouTube. And so copywriting is always going to be a part of it. And when you are looking at other copywriters, biz owners selling prompt sequences or prompt courses, they sometimes do have some context in there, but they're not properly talking about it. That's what copy prompting is. It's context training. Copy is, instead of copywriting, copy prompting, the context training. So you're using copywriting with AI to get more authentic copy out of AI. And also, there's nothing that will ever be more important than your own research. So let's say like this product, Nello's Super Focus, right? I sell this on TikTok Shop. My girlfriend sells the shit out of this on TikTok Shop. She is ridiculous. And she has ADHD. And so she has natural positioning to talk about this. But she's not just talking about it like, oh my God, it cured my ADHD. No, she's talking about the ingredients, the mechanism behind the ingredients. And that's where all copy prompting starts, is with mechanism. That's the main heuristic puzzle piece element behind what gets people to raise their hands, because everybody needs to know why something works for me, how this works for me. Why does it work? Just tell me. Just get to the point. So you can be like, oh, this gave me more energy. I thought it was caffeine that would do it, but nope, that actually wigged me out and made me more tired, more fatigued. This gives me real energy I can count on. Okay, why? Because if you're dopamine burnt out, like being on this app all day, if you're dopamine burnt out, you feel just gross. You have nothing but fatigue, no energy, no desire to get up and create energy. So when you get your dopamine back, all of a sudden you're like, damn, where did all this energy come from? You just didn't have the desire to tap into the energy that's in your body to create energy. Just like, when you don't feel like exercising and then you exercise and then all of a sudden, bam, I have energy. It takes energy to make energy. And so when you get the desire back to make that energy, everything changes. So I take these elements and I literally put them into first of all, this is without any training at all, right here. Sorry, right here. This is without any training at all, right? So it's not horrible copy, but it is generic AF. It's boring. You can hear the crowd chant it. Boring. So I took another ebook, the Copy Prompter Guidebook, and I put that in, asked it to save it for all future assets. Got it. Gemini has a large memory base, so, you can get a lot in there. That's what she said. And then I did that with the Copywriting Bible, and that has all the different heuristic puzzle pieces like mechanism, new cause, deeper core, FOMO, tale of two worlds, tale of two futures. And so that gives more contextual foundation for the chatbot to start giving me more specific copy. And then I'm just asking it to give me a breakdown of the product and the mechanism. Okay, got it. Great. Now, it had an issue with the ingredients, and, just like knowing the ingredients. If you're a copywriter and you don't know your ingredients, then this is going to be an issue for you. So know your ingredients and know what they do. Again, nothing is going to beat doing your own research. When you do your research and you know more than everybody else in the room about each ingredient, about how you can position this ADHD, dopamine burnout, for the gym, for older guys, for older women who get dopamine burnt out just through life, stress, cortisol, right? So there's just like off the dome, lots of different ways to position a product like this. So I corrected it. Okay. Corrected it again. All right. So now we get some copy. It's not that you're lazy. You and I both know you tried. You made the copy. You write the to-do list. You sit down at the desk. Okay. So there's some copy. Now let's go over here. I did the same thing. Now this thread or this account is already trained in heuristics. So the idea that I am going to, that I need to just train it each and every time I pay for more of the account level, I'm sorry, the $200 level memory. And that helps tremendously with remembering, obviously, what I need it to, but I do have to constantly go through and clean it because it gets used up very quickly. So I have to keep it constantly relevant. Now, it broke down all the ingredients, gave me the mechanisms, and so then I had it elemented out. And you'll notice here, it elemented it out a lot more in alignment with the language I use, the heuristic puzzle pieces that excuse me, that have helped me make 10 figures in profits over my 20 years. So we got a lot of good stuff there. And it also had, it knew exactly what the ingredients were. It didn't need to be corrected. So different chatbots have different levels of, making shit up. And I got this very honed in. So now I get to the actual copy. I used to sit down to work and forget what I was doing 10 seconds later. My brain just stopped holding focus. I'd scroll, get a caffeine hit, feel sharp for maybe 15 minutes, then crash again. That's when I found out your brain literally forgets how to remember deeper core. It burns through dopamine and acetylcholine, the chemicals that create focus and recall, until the fuel just ran out. I'm just copy chiefing off the dome. So I started using something called Nello's Super Focus. It isn't just caffeine. In fact, you can even get it without caffeine, like me. It rebuilds the dopamine and neuroepinephrine acetylcholine pathways. The N-acetyltyrosine, this is it's a bioavailable form of tyrosine. This is like the building blocks of dopamine. It creates L-dopa, which you need for your brain to make its own dopamine. If you have ADHD and you take Vyvanse or Addy, your brain's not making its own dopamine. And those drugs are not helping you actually do that, right? I'm going off script. But I could even start there. I could even use that as my positioning, because Vyvanse and Addy are ways to get people to raise their hands to a product like Super Focus. So now if I want to do that, add Vyvanse, Adderall as symbols at the top to get people with ADHD to resonate, self-identify, mirror neuron with the copy, and build it out from there. Now, I could give it a lot more context in my prompt, but that's what prompting is. I used to take Vyvanse, before that Adderall. They worked until they didn't. Every crash got worse. Every focus session ended in burnout. My brain started feeling like a radio stuck between stations. Signal there, but static everywhere. That's when I learned what was really happening. By the way, I hate that, and I would totally change that. That's when I learned what was really happening. Stimulants flood dopamine acetylcholine, but they don't rebuild it. Right there, I can get, because I've done my 80%, I can get a lot more specific in being like, Vyvanse, Addy, they make all that stored dopamine in your neurons dump back to become available for now focus. It's in the synapse, available for now focus, like a dopamine reuptake inhibitor. So it frees all that stored dopamine. You use it up now, but Addy, Vyvanse, they don't replace the dopamine that you used up. That's why you crash. That's why you feel flat. That's why you feel angry. Nello's Super Focus actually helps your brain make its own dopamine. Totally different than Addy or Vyvanse altogether, right? So now we're using them as symbols in the positioning. So that is why ads do or don't work, right? It's right there. If that doesn't get people to instantly raise their hands, the whole ad, the whole VSL bombs. So let's get this times 10, right? Because you're going to, I used to take Vyvanse, before that Addy. Then I realized I wasn't focusing anymore. I was just chasing that next dose. So that's horrible. I used to take Vyvanse, before that Adderall. Every crash got darker. Every focus day got shorter. My brain forgot what clarity even felt like. Okay, we could work with that. I used to take Vyvanse. Okay, so first of all, these are all variations of the same thing. I would love to see totally different ways of using Vyvanse and Adderall, or just one or the other, as symbols to hit the deeper core, the real reason why these don't actually work if you have ADHD, getting to the deeper core that it's not helping produce dopamine, but use up stored dopamine. Right. So if I didn't do my 80% on these ingredients, I wouldn't be able to give it that contextual positioning prompt. And this is more than copy prompting, positioning prompting, using the specific positioning point of ADHD and then Adderall, Vyvanse as symbols to get people with ADHD to self-identify, raise their hands. That's how I know what I'm testing in that first line to know when it does or doesn't work, what does or doesn't work, and why. And if you're a copywriter working for other people, they need you to know how to do that. Even if they do know how to do that themselves, they're not paying you to be less than what they can do in terms of writing copy or using AI. But this gives you just a perfect example of prompting generic versus contextual copy prompting, and then positioning prompting. Any questions? Let me know down in the comments. Comment your comment in the comments, and I will see you next time. Cheers.